China has just set up a long-range phased array radar in Kunming in southern China. This radar has a range of over 5,000 kilometers. Now, Indian defense officials say that this radar can be used to snoop on India's missile tests in the Bay of Bengal. Joining me to discuss this new radar that the Chinese have set up and its impact on India is Brigadier Kuldeep Singh, a former member of the National Security Council Secretariat. Brigadier Kuldeep, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Many thanks, Sandeep, for having me on this show. Really grateful.
Tell us the importance, Brigadier Kuldeep, of this LPAR radar that the Chinese have set up. It has a range that you're seeing behind me. It's got an entire coverage of the all of eastern India, the eastern Indian Ocean, all of the Malacca Straits and the Indonesian area, and of course Southeast Asia. Why would the Chinese set up such a powerful radar so deep in their territory?
Yeah, you're right. The Chinese have activated a new, what we call the LPAR, or the Large Phased Array Radar at Kunming. Now, you're well aware that Kunming is about 400 to 425 kilometers east of the Sino-Myanmar border and about 1,200 kilometers from the eastern edge of the Bay of Bengal. But what we got to note is that this is not China's first LPAR.
Right.
This is the 8th LPAR station, and the other LPARs are at, for example, at Korla in Xinjiang province, which is India and Russia specific.
Right.
And then there's another one in Heilongjiang province, another in Zhejiang province. Two arrays are there in Shandong, and the oldest one, dating back to the late 70s and early 80s, is in Hebei province. That's in the eastern side.
Right.
Now, the LPARs are an integral part of China's missile warning and space tracking network.
Right.
And in tasking or in functionality, they are quite akin to what the US wants to use its PAWS, that is the Phased Array Warning System, for. That is for, missile warning and space tracking. Now, the Kunming LPAR is not just focused solely on India, but as was very rightly pointed out by you, with the 5,000 kilometer range, its detection swath is extending right up to Bahrain, Manama. That's the location of the headquarters of the USA's 5th Fleet, up to Diego Garcia, which is also a base of the US, and to the south of, much south, almost touching parts of the second island chain, till Darwin in Australia. Now, that's the swath of just the LPAR at, Kunming.
Right.
So it should be quite evident to us that the LPAR are not India specific, but or standalone platform, but are part of a very broad, integrated overlapping missile detection and space surveillance system of China.
Right.
No, but we should also remember that mere detection of a missile launch or anything happening in the space is not enough.
Right.
What truly matters in the end is the response to detection of any adversarial missile launch and the actions that would be expected from any BMD ABM units. Now, perhaps this is a new thing. The Kunming LPAR, is located quite near 3 missile brigades of the PLA's 53 base. Now, the Korla one in Xinjiang also has 3 missile brigades around it. The Heilongjiang has 2 missile brigades around it. The Xinjiang one has 2. Shandong has 1 missile brigade around it. But the question is, are any of these brigades or all these brigades equipped with BMD and ABM systems?
Right. BMD meaning a ballistic missile defense and anti-ballistic missile defense missiles.
Yes. ABM systems.
Right.
So these were the standard missile brigades for, nuclear launch, etc., and A2AD. But the fact is that are any of these brigades which are around these LPARs also equipped, which is something we really don't know at the moment, given that there's not much information available about the HQ9 deployments and the other ABM systems that China has.
Right. So
So
important point there,
any
Brigadier Kuldeep, the fact that this is not a standalone radar. It's obviously it's linked to a larger network of missile defense, ballistic missile defense missiles as well, missile batteries. But tell us what this means for India's own readiness posture. Now, the Bay of Bengal is from where we are supposed to launch our second strike capability, which is the Arihant class submarines and their nuclear missiles. If these missiles can be tracked by Chinese, does that, does that degrade our second strike capability to some extent?
Yes, of course, there's absolutely no doubt about that. You see, insofar as India is concerned, given the average depth of the Bay of Bengal, the
Right,
Bay of Bengal is ideal for SSBN operations.
right.
But we do need to note that with two SSBNs, the Arihant and the Arigat at present, even if they are equipped with the 3,500 kilometer range K4 SLBM, that
Yes,
sea launched ballistic missiles, we cannot adopt that continues at sea presence model, as that
right,
requires a larger number, at least 3 to 4 SSBNs.
right.
So most likely we'll follow the Bastian model.
Yes,
Now the LPARs can't detect the SSBNs when they slip away from a Bastian. For example, the
right,
Bastian would be INS Varsha,
right.
but
A
we'll be able
bastion
to
meaning the base that the submarines would be hidden in. That's the
yes,
concept.
yes. Yeah, what we are trying to do is what the Chinese have done at Hainan, make a base in which, given the depth of the Bay of Bengal, the SSBN, the ship submersible ballistic nuclear, can come in and enter underwater without having to surface and then enter. So even, but however, the LPARs do not have the capability to track submarines as they are coming and going.
Right,
You know, they are basically meant for missile launches.
right.
So it's only when we are launching a missile as
Yes,
part of a, let's say, I mean, hypothetical scenario, a very massive first strike or a disarming strike
right,
or a second strike, this thing, only then they'll be able to detect that. But this is applicable to the present as well as to the future, including the S4 Star series of
right,
submarines or the under development S5 series of submarines, which are supposed to be equipped with a 6,000 kilometer range MIRVed K6 SLBM. That's a sea launched ballistic missile.
right.
Now, the fact remains that this does affect us. But like I mentioned,
Yes,
in the end, mere detection is not enough. It
right,
is the, what you call interception of these missiles by a ABM, that's an anti-ballistic missile system or a ballistic missile defense system,
right.
which is going to make the difference.
Absolutely.
Now, there is a view in the world. Many of us are tending to just go by what the US is saying. But if you read the congressional reports and also the GAO reports, the Government Accountability Office reports, and
Right.
other reports which are coming in on the US missile defense system, even the US, which is far ahead of anyone in the missile defense race,
Yeah.
is unable to promise you anything more than 40 to 50%, a safety or a defense capability. This is
Right.
because, with a number of other things happening, for example, the MIRV technologies, the
Yes.
MARV technology, the maneuvering warheads,
Right.
and also the decoys, the hypersonic platforms, all of them make BMD not a reliable, 100% reliable
Right.
method of shore defense.
Absolutely. And one last question, Brigadier Kuldeep. Can this LPAR radar that the Chinese have installed, can that be used to study our nuclear missile tests? You have the Bay of Bengal,
Absolutely.
which is where we launch our...
Absolutely.
And how does it help the Chinese really? When they study these missile tests, explain to our viewers why you would need to study, say, the Agni 5 missile tests with this radar. What is the kind of intelligence that the Chinese would get out of studying these tests?
Every missile launch is generally, until and unless it is done in combat conditions or in war conditions, is also a test. And there's a huge amount of telemetry data which is trailed downwards from the missile. And there are many, 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 many parameters which are checked. Starting off from the vibrations, etc., the magnetic data.
Yes.
What happens at launch, anything that went wrong. There's a huge gamut of telemetry data which is streamed back towards the base, and coming to know the vulnerabilities or the pattern of a missile flight also
Yes.
helps in interception and
Right.
in determining the kind of defense that you can build up to it or any other countermeasures that you want
Right.
to build up to it. Today,
Right.
there is talk of directed energy weapons,
Yes.
being developed by some nations, lasers or directed energy weapons which are coming up. So what is, will the missile shield, which
Yes.
is supposed to withstand the vibrations and such a amount of heat, are they vulnerable to a directed energy system or not? Apart from that, there are many other issues that, the telemetry data that is being streamed up, or what the missile is going
Right.
up and where it is, falling down,
Yes.
helps you, refine the system for the owner of that missile, or the country, the host
Absolutely.
country.
Yes. Thank you.
So
Thank you
they
very
will be
much,
able.
Brigadier Kuldeep. I'm afraid we're completely out of time, but thank you for those very fascinating insights, as always, on China's new LPAR phased array radar in Kunming and what it means for India. Thank you for joining us.